Hey, my friends, I'm Romi Hill. I'm the designer behind Designs by Romi. And welcome today. So, first, I just want to tell you that I'm actually not in my studio right now. I'm at a different location because there's some safety concerns that have brought me over here. And I don't have my regular setup, so apologies for that. But I will actually still be demonstrating everything. The lighting is just not going to be great. You're probably going to hear my dog in the background, like shaking herself, and noises and stuff because I don't have my normal microphone. I don't have my regular camera. So, but hopefully, we'll get past this, and I am just really excited to be with you all. So, welcome. Hi, everybody. I see you over in the chat. Hopefully, you all can hear me pretty well. I get a little paranoid about the sound. So, like, hopefully it's okay. And you probably just heard my dog shake herself like there's no tomorrow. Anyway, it's so nice to see everybody. And throughout this, I will be checking the chat and answering any questions. So the first thing I wanted to answer, Gary asked a question, and I wish I could answer you. I'm so sorry. But Knit Companion has a great customer support. So they'll probably be able to tell you how to get everything to your liking. So anyway, so today is the first day, it's the first clue of my 2025 Mystery Shawl. And this year's shawl is called Funston, and I will talk a little bit about that later. So first of all, for anybody who doesn't know what a mystery shawl is, it's a surprise. So there are 5 clues, which are actually just 5 pieces of the pattern, and there's 1 per week. So a lot of people actually like to use a mystery shawl as their very first lace project because it's so nice to knit along with other people, and everybody's knitting together. There's this really great sense of camaraderie. So if you are new at lace or anything like that, join in. It's really fun, and I've always had really good feedback from people who have decided to kind of take the plunge on the mystery shawl. So, and yay, thank you everybody for saying that you can hear me fine. Hi to everybody. Hi, Heather. Heather is a moderator in my Ravelry group. So, oops, wrong Heather. Sorry. I just looked at Heather. I was like, sorry about that. Anyway, so hi, Pauline, Barbara, Fran, Terry, Gretchen. It's nice to see some faces coming back from last year and the years in the past. So anyway, back to what a mystery shawl is. You don't get to know what the shawl looks like until you're finished. So every clue I release, there are 5, and they're all a week apart. I will have a YouTube live like this, and we'll go over the clue, and I'll show you any techniques that you need to be able to knit the clue. And you can ask me questions, and I will answer them. And then this will stay at the same link so that when you go back, you'll see it in the top of your clue, and it also gets published with the final pattern. So you'll always be able to come back here, and if you have any questions or anything, you'll be able to kind of look through and see how everything is going. So let me see. Hi, Maria. Oh, it's so nice to see you. Okay, so it's been a while since I've done a live, sorry. So let me go over here to my hands, and we'll take a little bit of a look at the clue. Okay, so this is my little quirk is that every time I do a mystery shawl, I like to do a little poem, sort of not really a poemy poem. Anyway, so, and one little piece of it comes with each clue. So this year we did things a little bit differently, and I called for a skein of one fingering or sport weight yarn plus a skein of a silk mohair. So, but the pattern itself is written so that if you want to use, because I know there are a lot of people out there who really don't like mohair. So if you are someone who does not love mohair, you can actually just use 2 skeins of fingering or sport weight, as long as those skeins have at least 385 yards. So you will, you'll still be able to do the whole thing. And the Verb for Keeping Warm had kits, so they were also telling you that it was completely fine to substitute. So I know a few of you did substitute for the second yarn. And then, of course, it's completely fine to stash dive. If you do stash dive, for my mystery shawls, it's usually better to have kind of more of a on the solid side of a yarn rather than a super variegated, because a solid like this is going to show the patterning better, and a variegated yarn is going to obscure some of your beautiful work. So I always suggest going with a solid or a tonal, and speckles look really good. It's just those really longer longer runs of color, like in a really variegated yarn. Those are the ones that kind of obscure the patterning in there. So you'll see every week up here, you'll have the YouTube link, which you guys probably already saw since you're here. Yay. And down here, I just wanted to show you. Okay, so this is something that I started making clear a couple years ago, that all of the abbreviations and techniques assume that when your stitches are mounted on your needle, that the right leg is in front and the left leg is in back. And that is because there are lots of combination knitters out there and who may not know that they're combination knitters. So if you take a look at your knitting, and we will take a look at this when I start out showing you how to do this, and we'll talk a little bit about how that looks on the needle and how you can, if you find out that you are in fact a combination knitter, how you can work this pattern. So then I have just my abbreviations here, and this is just for the first clue. As things go along and we get more clues, you will see that this right here gets much larger. So, okay, so let's take just a look through here. And now I'm just looking at this. I feel like I am a little a little out of it today, because now I'm just realizing that Heather just doesn't have her full last name on there. Oh my God, sorry Heather. Anyway, so this is where we're starting with the charts. So there's a little cast on here, right at the top, right there, and I will show you how to do that. And then the top of the triangle is going to be worked back and forth, and then the rest of it along here, this just tells you how many times you're going to be working each chart. Over here, you can see the charts. These two charts only show the right side. So all of the wrong side rows are right up here. And I'm actually going to talk a little bit more about that later, because I should have added a note up here, and I'll talk about that. So chart A is only worked once. Chart B is worked a total of 7 times. So if you had the pre-clue and you finished it, you would have finished 1 repeat of chart B. And once you have finished that repeat of chart B, if you did the pre-clue, the whole thing, then you're going to start on the second repeat of chart B when you're looking at this clue. So this part right here where it says work 3, you're actually going to go to the work 5 right away. And so you will end up having done 7 full repeats of chart B, 1 in the pre-clue, and then 6 in this full clue here. Okay, and then we have chart C. So here's where we're gonna look at, I actually added a little note here. I printed this out before I added the note. Anyway, the note was about what you see is what you knit format, WYSIWYG. So I used to chart only in this style, which is you're going to knit, or rather you're going to work all of the symbols as you see them, as they come up. So for instance, on a regular chart, when you would switch to the wrong side, you would have to knit opposite, work the opposite of whatever symbol it is. So if you take a look down here, here is the charting format that more of you are probably familiar with, and I just called it what you see is what you get. And this is actually a former moderator in one of my groups who came up with these nicknames. So there is what you see is what you knit, and what you see is what you get. And a lot of people find it a lot easier to use this what you see is what you knit format, because it's really a visual representation of basically written instructions. So each row here is exactly what you would be reading in your written instructions. And for a lot of people, including me, it's just easier to look at that and work whatever stitch you see on the wrong side. So if you're ever confused about which type of format your chart is, you can take a look at the key, and if you see in here a right side and a wrong side specified, that means that you are going to be doing opposite on the wrong side row. So for instance, here's the knit, so that's just a blank square there, and then on the wrong side row you're going to purl instead of knit. So that shows what you're actually going to look at on the right side of your pattern. So for texture, for instance, it's probably easier to follow that because you're able to see the texture and compare it to your chart as it grows. So let's see. So I'm just going to make sure I haven't missed anybody's questions here. So Eileen asked about which color shouldn't be variegated. Thank you, Heather. Yep, that is true. Yeah. So neither color should be super variegated, but tonals will look nice. Speckles look really nice. Anything, and sometimes you're not going to be able to tell unless you sort of test it out. So, you know, feel free to kind of test and see if you like it. And also, I have to say, it's your shawl. So if you like variegated yarn for lace, I am not going to tell you not to use it if that is what you love. So do what you love. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, so let me see. I think I have I don't think I missed any questions, hopefully. Okay, so, I forgot to talk about Funston. So I had like a little bit of a blurb about it, but in case you wondered how it got this weird name, in San Francisco, like I was born in San Francisco and I grew up across the Golden Gate Bridge. And in San Francisco, there are both numbered streets and numbered avenues. And in the avenues, they didn't want to have a 13th Avenue, so they named it Funston Avenue. And I always thought that was hilarious when I was a kid. So this is my 13th annual Mystery Shawl. And so I had to name it Funston, and it's like the sort of inspiration behind it is I used to take the ferry from Marin to San Francisco a lot, and especially in the summer with my mother, because I worked at the same, like in her office over the summer, and it was so gorgeous. And so I have really fond memories of the fog sort of snaking across the water, and then in the afternoon coming back by Angel Island. And so, yeah, so this is a sort of a San Francisco related shawl. So that's the story there. So, okay. All right. So let's take a little bit of a look here. So, before I don't have all of my supplies here. So I think I might have like a chart keeper, but I couldn't find it. so I'm just going to use this. So if there's anybody here who's never used a chart before, you're going to start at the very bottom. And the best way to do this is to obscure the top rows on top of the row that you are working. And that's going to let you, as you move up, you're going to be able to see how the pattern stacks on itself so that you can immediately tell if there's any issue. So in case you get off, you'll always be able to see by looking at your knitting and checking the chart against it where everything falls. And as you go up, you'll see it kind of come together. So on this, it's not as huge a deal as it is on some other more complicated types of lace patterns, but it's still super helpful because you'll be able to see how this lines up. And believe me when I say, when I get really cocky and I'm kind of like just working along, knitting like crazy, this has saved me so many times just by being able to kind of look at the pattern and compare it to my knitting. So even if you only love your written instructions, take a look at the chart every so often, because that is going to show you if everything is stacking up properly. And even if you don't like reading the chart, you can look at it and still get a really good idea as to how it's going along, if it looks right or not. So since these are only the right side, each of these rows starts on the right side. So this is 1, 3, 5. These are all odd numbers over here on the right side. And then the odd rows are all the same. So those are up here. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later too. Okie doke. So this shawl is, if you've knit my shawls before, which I know a bunch of you have, you will know this is one of my favorite constructions. It's a modern hap construction. So it starts at the bottom point of the inner triangle. It's a triangular shawl. So I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this cast on here. I am a continental knitter, and the way I'm going to show you first, and continental means I hold my yarn in my left hand. That's all it means. So continental style, I hold my yarn in my left hand. If you hold it in your right hand, you're an English style knitter. And no one is better than the other. Whichever one you prefer is the one I would say to use. So it is actually, I think, helpful to know how to do both of them, because if your hands get tired or you need to rest or something like that, kind of switching back and forth can really help. Okay, so I'm going to do the cast on for the triangle up here. So the first thing we're going to do, this does not have a knot in it, this first way that I'm going to show you to do this. And if you are a crocheter, this is probably going to be easier for you. So I crocheted before I knitted, and so holding my yarn in my left hand is really easy for me because that's how I learned to crochet. For other people, holding it in your right hand is way easier. So what I'm going to do, I want to do 5 stitches into this loop. So I have this yarn here that's leading to my ball. It's going over the top, and my tail is on the bottom here. So I am going to tension the yarn in both of my hands, and I'm just going to reach into my loop and knit a stitch. So you can't actually knit more than 1 stitch out in a row into any loop or yarn over. So there has to be something in between it. So there's a yarn over. So that yarn over is what is going to keep the stitches from just coming out and making one big loop. So that's 2 stitches. I'm going to reach in again and get my 3rd stitch, and then a yarn over, and then here's my 5th stitch. So you can see this is loopy here, but don't worry about it because that is just going to stay loopy however long you want it to be, and then you can just pull on this tail and easily tighten it up. Okay, so this is the easiest way to do it continental, I think, but it's really fiddly if you don't like to hold your yarn in your left hand. So here is a way that you can do it English style. So I'm going to first make a slip knot. So I call this my sacrificial slip knot because it's just going to go away completely. I'm just going to pull it out. It's only there to anchor the yarn on my needle, and that's it. So it doesn't have to be pretty. It's just gonna go away once you're finished with it. And then I'm going to do 1 backwards loop cast on. So this is how it's a backwards loop or E cast on. If you're a machine knitter, you probably know how to do this. And then you're just going to stick your needle through here. So you have your slip knot, and then you have your 1 little E or backwards loop cast on. Okay, so I'm going to turn this around. I am a terrible, terrible English knitter, but I'm just gonna, you don't laugh. Anyway, okay, so I'm just gonna use this 1 loop here. I'm not gonna use this first slip knot at all. I'm going to stick my needle in here and make 1 knit stitch. Now when you're holding your yarn in your right hand, yarn overs are a little bit different, so you're going to come in between the 2 needles. It's basically like a yarn forward, and in fact in UK patterns they do just call it a yarn forward. And now I'm going to put my needle back in and get another stitch. So now I have 3 stitches. Gonna bring my yarn forward in between my 2 needles, and now I'm going to reach back in there and get my last stitch. Okay, so now I have my 5 stitches, and here is my loop here that I knit them into. So I'm going to mark this. I'm just going to mark this loop, and I want to make sure that it gets a little bit confusing later on. You're going to have loops up the side of both edges, and this is just going to help to make sure that you know which of the stitches was the initial stitch that you worked into. So now I'm going to take both of those off of my needle. So now what I have is my pin is marking this initial loop here, and then I have my little sacrificial slip knot, and I can just pull that out. And it's all gone, and we have exactly the same result as the other way. But I think this is a lot less fiddly for many, many people. So hopefully, if you've had trouble with this before, this will solve your problems. Okay. So, Gretchen says the Emily Ocker cast on. That one is a little bit different from this. This is a pinhole cast on. So Emily Ocker, if we have time, and if I can find a crochet hook, I'll show you the difference. It's an amazing cast on. I love that cast on. Okay, so at this point, we are right down here at the end of the cast on for the upper triangle. And if anybody has extra questions or anything about anything I'm doing, just let me know. And I just noticed that Carol asked, are we going to go over the cast on? So hopefully this was enough to get you going. If not, let me know and I can go over some more of it. Okay, so let's go. I'm gonna move on here. All right. So I want to say on the wrong side rows, you'll notice that on either end there is a knit stitch and then purl stitches in the middle. And this is because if you purl all the way across, you're going to see on one side that the stitches are going to be, the loops on the side are going to be much bigger than on the other side. And that's because one side is going to have a yarn over and then purl, and the other side is going to have a yarn over and knit. And the yarn has to travel a little bit farther to make the yarn over purl. So that makes that stitch loopier. So this makes it more even. It evens things out for you. Okay, so I'm going to start at the bottom here. I like to knit my stitches through the back loop above yarn overs because it makes it super tidy at the bottom. So if you are ever having problems with the next right side row stitches above yarn overs and they just look kind of sloppy, try this method, which is just a simple twisted stitch. Okay, more about that later because we're going to talk a little bit about combination knitters. Alrighty, so we're at the bottom here. I'm going to show you first how I do a yarn over at the beginning of the row as a continental knitter. So I hold my yarn in my left hand like this, and all I do is kind of stick my needle under the yarn, and then I'm going to knit through the back loop all the way across. So I'm twisting my stitches, and I'm twisting them by knitting through the back loop. So here's the front loop in front of the needle, and then the back loop is the leg that is in the back. So I'm going through the back. I'm catching that back leg of the stitch, and that's going to make it much neater. So later on I can go back and adjust this and make it nice and neat. Okay, so now I'm going to turn over. I'm going to use this row up top here. I'm just going to do a continental one more time. So I'm going to do my yarn over and then a knit, and then I am going to purl. I'm going to purl all the way to the end here, and then this last is a knit stitch. Okay, so these side stitches here are the only yarn overs in the pattern that do not have a twisted stitch above them. And that is because you don't want to close up these little loops that you're going to be creating on the side. So these loops on the side here make it much easier to pick up stitches along the side and that is what is going to happen in this construction. So don't close those up, and I think if you've never used this type of construction before, I think you will be really happy with it because picking up stitches can be kind of a bear sometimes. Okay, so now I'm on row 3. I'm going to show you how I would do this as an English style knitter. And again, please don't laugh at me. I do actually sometimes work on an English style knitting, believe it or not. And yeah, I used to knit this way too, but I've forgotten everything. Okay, so to do a yarn over at the beginning of a row when you're English style, you're just going to stick your needle underneath this yarn here. And it could be a little bit fiddly, so it's okay to pinch it. I mean, whatever it takes to make this a pleasurable experience. And then I am going to stick my needle in the first stitch. So what you may notice is that this could possibly be a mistake that you made when you were a new knitter, not bringing the yarn to the back. So this time you're going to do it on purpose and create a stitch by doing it. So just keeping that yarn in the front, and I'm going to make the stitch, and you can see here that I just made an extra stitch. And now I'm going to knit all the way across. And get to the end here. Okay, so Judy said that her loops were bigger on one side than the other, even with the knit one. So that will probably black out. And if it doesn't, I sometimes have that problem too. If it doesn't block out, kind of give it a pull and just sort of, when you block it, just sort of give it a little bit of a pull and kind of make those loops bigger on that one side, and it will block right out. Okay, now we're going to go back the other way. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about combination knitting in just a sec. So combination knitting is more common for continental knitters, but English style knitters also may be doing it and not realizing it. So let's turn this over. And I am just going to use my little notebook here to mark my place on my chart. Okay, so here is what we have so far. So you can see we have the loops along the side. Okay, so I'm just going to start right here. I'm going to do my yarn over, and then I'm going to knit 4 stitches. Oops, I think I messed that up. I'm going to turn this over, and I'm so used to moving things back and forth as a continental knitter. I don't do yarn forward and yarn back, and then so when I'm knitting English style, I often forget to move the yarn back to do a knit stitch. So there we go. Now this is correct. Okay, so I'm going to yarn over and knit 4 stitches. Okay, so now this is a double yarn over, And a double yarn over shows, it looks like it's two separate little stitches, but really what it is just a big hole. So you're gonna do 2 yarn overs like this. And you can see it's just wrapped around your needle. And now I'm gonna go to the end. And now I'm gonna get to what I should have put a note in here talking about the double yarn overs up in this little box, and I will actually add that. So I did put it down here in my written instructions. So if you ever get confused by seeing something in a chart or on the written instructions, definitely check them against one another, because you can usually find the answer if you're confused. So I'm going to work my edge here. And now I'm going to get to this double yarn over. So you can see it looks like there are 2 stitches there, but really if I pop one of those off, you can see it's just that big hole. So, and I can put it back on. It doesn't really matter, however you like to work it. So whatever works for you. So for a double yarn over, it needs to be a purl one and a knit one into the double yarn over, or you can do knit one, purl one too. It doesn't actually matter, just as long as there is a knit and a purl, 1 knit and 1 purl in each of those double yarn overs. And that is going to keep your stitches from coming apart. Okay, and this is what it looks like. So you'll see that there's that little purl bump there, but once it's all blocked out, it's not going to be very obvious that there's a purl bump there. Okay, and now we're going to go up here. And like I was saying before, I like to work these through the back loop. Write the stitches on the next right side after a yarn over. Okay, so I'm going to show you the difference in what it looks like. So first I'm going to twist these stitches down at the bottom here. And then on the next yarn overs I do on the next rows up above, right up on row 11, I will show you what it looks like if you do not do that. Okay, so that is what it looks like to begin with. It's kind of a watery theme. All of the themes are watery. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about combination knitting versus Western or Eastern uncrossed knitting. So in Western patterns, it assumes that the right leg is in front and the left leg is in back. So if you take a look here at your stitches, you'll see this right leg right here is always in front of the needle. So, and this is a Western purl. There are a lot of different ways to do a Western purl. So this is just a lever purl. You can see the yarn comes over the top. So for a lot of continental knitters, however, have problems tensioning yarn on the purl side. And so they can go sometimes over the top of the yarn. So the needle comes over the top of the yarn like this. So when you do that, it tightens it up a little bit, but it also puts the right leg in back instead of in front. So if you purl this way, then you have to take a little extra care on the next right side so that you can get the results that you want to get. So this is not wrong to purl this way. So if anybody tells you it's wrong, they're just don't realize that lots and lots of people in the world purl this way. So it's it's very, very common in Russian knitters and Eastern European knitters. Okay, so Now let's show you what this looks like. So here are the first ones. They have the right leg in front here and the left leg in back. So I knit them through the front loop. So through the front loop, that keeps the stitch open at the bottom. So now I'm going to go over here. This is a stitch that I did the Eastern purl on. So you can see the right leg is in back and the left leg is in front. So you have to knit it through the back loop to keep it nice and open. So a lot of people, when they first start knitting and they're doing some knitting in the round, say, and have to separate for the underarms or something like that, don't realize that the reason the knitting looks different is because they're now purling and they're actually combination knitters. So a combination knitter is somebody who does a Western knit and an Eastern purl. So after my knit row, if I'm a combination knitter, I'm going to have my my right leg in front and left leg in back. And after the purl row, I'm going to have my right leg in back and my left leg in front. So it just takes a little bit of extra to do this. And if you are a combination knitter and you want to twist your stitch, you're going to have to do it a little bit differently. So if you work like this, it's going to twist it the opposite direction of how it would usually be twisted. So what you need to do, so you're going to slip it purlwise and then put it back on your needle to twist it like this. And that will keep it twisted properly. Okay, and I'll kind of show you that a little bit later when I'm twisting some more stitches. And please feel free to ask questions. I sort of get going on all of the geekery of the patterns. So if I'm saying something and you're just like, what on earth is she talking about? Just ask me, and I'm always happy to explain everything. Okay, let me just get going a little bit farther, and then I will show you what it looks like when you work into a yarn over, like when you work the next right side row after a yarn over and you don't twist it. So one thing I wanted to point out to you on here, if you are new to reading charts, there are these squares across here that we can all see. So don't fall into the trap of counting the squares across here to figure out how many stitches you should have before you do the row. So the visual that you have here is the number of stitches you will have after you've finished the row. And if you want to see if you have the correct number of stitches, you have to look at it a little bit differently. So for instance, you can see here that on this row, there are a number of stitches increased. There are 3 stitches increased on row 5. So here's one of them right here. A yarn over does not use an existing stitch, so that is an increase. And then in the middle here, there are 2 yarn overs. So yarn overs do not use existing stitches. So when you're counting to see how many stitches you require for row 5, you're just going to count these other boxes, the knit stitches, because those require existing stitches to work. So that's 4 and 5, that's 9 stitches. So down here, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, yeah. So down here, we're gonna take a look at this, and I think oh, never mind. I forgot there's an extra stitch that's created on the wrong side. So we have 8 stitches down here on row 3, plus the extra stitch that's created on row 4, and that gives us the 9 stitches to work row 5. And so, but there are actually 12 of the little boxes, and that is just because you are creating these stitches across here. And every time you get to one of these yarn over rows here, there's an extra stitch created up here, and that's going to make your triangle wider. So that just makes it a nicer sort of look to it. Okay, so we're at 11. And sorry for all the noise. Everybody's coming home around here, I guess. Anyway, so here we go. And of course, my dog is, maybe I'll let her do a cameo in one of these in the coming weeks. Okay, so believe it or not, there are controversial things in knitting, and one of them is the SSK. So the SSK lays better or worse for you depending on your style. This isn't going to be that big of a thing because these SSKs aren't in a big long row or anything. So however you want to do your SSK is completely fine. I wrote a particular one. I'm going to show you how I have done these SSKs in my shawl. So I slip one, and then I knit one, and then slip the stitch over. So there are so many different ways to do them, and as we go on, I will show you other ways as well. And then another double yarn over. And let's get to the end here. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of speed back along here just so I can show you what it looks like when you don't have a twisted stitch above your yarn overs. So by the way, don't twist the stitch going back on the wrong side because that will actually close your yarn over up. And you don't want it to be closed up, you just want it to be neat and tidy. Okay. So let's do one side here twisted and the other side not twisted. And you'll see the difference. So this first one is twisted, and just gonna scoot on through this because it's probably not that interesting watching me do this. Okay, now these, I didn't twist them. And sometimes it actually gives you a really nice look not to twist them. So it looks more feathery. So not every single one. Okay, let's see. So Christina asked a question. I feel like the written instructions for row after double yarn over seem different from the chart. It looks like the chart directs 2 knits through the back loop while the written instructions direct purl 1, K1. Okay, so on the chart, these rows here are only right side rows. So you're going to work a wrong side row in between each one of these rows. So that may be what you're seeing. And I think you might have gotten here later, so I do want to add up here that I should have put the same note up here that I have on my wrong side rows in the written instructions, that for each one, each time you work the wrong side row, if there is a double yarn over, you're going to purl 1, knit 1 into it. And I will definitely add that later on. So hopefully that clears everything up. Okie doke. Alrighty, so let's do this. I am just going to knit across, or sorry, purl across here, and then you will be able to see better the difference between the twisted stitches above the yarn over and the just the plain untwisted stitches. scoot along here. So if anybody else has any questions or anything, please feel free to ask. Don't be shy. I love answering questions. It makes me feel useful. So you'll be making me happy. Okay. So here you can see the difference. So over here, these are twisted. Over here, they're not twisted. So you can see under here, it's just like a wider base to the stitch there. This doesn't look terrible. Like I wouldn't be super upset or anything about the way this looks, but sometimes those stitches really stretch out and they look super sloppy. So twisting always kind of gives you that really neat top row like that. Okay. So let's just put this aside for now. Alrighty, so that is basically like, so when I did the shawl, I was kind of going for a relaxing knit. So I felt like this was a really therapeutic section. So this is, once you learn this little pattern down here, then that is what you're going to continue on. And so you're going to work chart A. You'll have 33 stitches at the end. And let's see. And then you're going to go on to chart B. And I'm going to answer Devorah. So you asked, is the gauge done in fingering or lace? And either one should be fine. So they should be about the same gauge because they are done on the same needles. So I did mine in the fingering. So if you want to do the fingering. And then a question from Monique, where would be a good place to insert a lifeline? So lifelines are, I'm actually going to show you how to do one. So a lifeline is particularly a wonderful thing if you feel uncomfortable about lace knitting and want to make sure that you can rip back and not lose everything. So I'm going to show you what to do. This is just some nylon crochet thread. So I love to use dental floss mostly, but I do not have dental floss here. If you use dental floss, you definitely want to use unwaxed dental floss, especially in summer, because if you leave it in the car, it will melt. Ask me how I know. So, yeah, so I think somehow my computer got unplugged, so I have to plug it in here. So pardon me while I get my stuff all fixed here. There's going to be some weirdness for a moment. So you can see how my setup is not what it usually is. Okay. All right. So we're saved now. We're saved. The Mac will not go to sleep. Okay. So to do a lifeline, you can put as many in as you want or as few as you want. There's really no rule, whatever makes you feel comfortable. But I would say that the big rule for me is to mark wherever the lifeline is in the chart. So what's going to happen is you're going to put a thread through these loops, just through your open loops, and then just keep going on. And you're going to want to put it after a wrong side row. That will make it easier. So let's see. Okay. So I'm going to put one in right across here. And if I were going to keep this in, I would mark on my chart where I put it and make a little note there where I put the lifeline. So I am not using needles that are interchangeable. This is a fixed circular needle. So a lot of interchangeable needles have a little hole right at the base here, and you can actually thread lifeline thread through that and just knit, and it will pull it through, and that makes it easier. So what I'm going to do is just move these stitches over to my cable, and then just run my needle right through my stitches here. And I'm going to get to the end. Okay. So once I've done that, I'm not going to cut this thread because it's the one that I just carry with me in case I have to do some sort of cast on or something like that. If I were really going to keep this in my knitting, I would make sure that it's at least twice as long as the width of my piece. And then I'm just going to tie this so it doesn't come out. So I like to use something kind of slippery because then it's not going to sort of latch on to the wool and get stuck. So once that's done, the first row is going to be a little fiddly because you don't want to start knitting your lifeline into your knitting. So you just want to avoid that. But all you're going to do is start knitting, and you can see here at the base that lifeline is going to stick in there right through those stitches. So you can put in as many as you want or as few as you want. If you wanted to put them in every 4 rows or so, or like before each one of the rows with the yarn overs, that's totally cool. It's not cheating. It's just like it makes things just less stressful. And who needs extra stress, right? Okay. Anyway, so you can see it running along here. And remember, just make a notation on your pattern. Okay. So I'll stick that aside for now. Once you've done chart A, you're going to go on to chart B, and a little bit about, I love to use stitch markers. So one caveat, I always put them on where the repeat lines are. However, the repeat lines aren't actually there for stitch markers. So sometimes when you use them, you're going to need to borrow stitches back and forth, not in this chart, but in subsequent charts. And we can talk about that later. So if you use stitch markers, it's actually a really, really good way to just keep track of your stitches and make sure that you have the right count. And if you're new at lace knitting in particular, like the most common type of error is either leaving out a yarn over or putting an extra in. So if that happens, don't worry. When you're going back the other way and you're counting, you'll be able to just make yourself feel better by counting in between the stitch markers and like relax a little bit. So also, if you've left out a yarn over, so I'm just going to show you how easy it is to add a yarn over if you've left one out. So usually if I am only a few rows in like this, it doesn't bother me. Like I just rip it and go back instead of adding a yarn over. But yeah, Okay, so if you have forgotten a yarn over, okay. So if you're going along and you're like, oh no, crap, I forgot a yarn over. All you need to do is find the bar of yarn here between your stitches. To do a single yarn over, you're just gonna pick it up and put it up on your needle. So what if I want to create a double yarn over out of that? If I don't want to rip back, I'm just going to put that single yarn over up onto my needle, and then I'm going to purl and then knit into it. And then I have it all fixed. So what about if there's a yarn over where there shouldn't be? So say I've come along and I put an extra yarn over in, and I have too many stitches and there's a yarn over. So all you need to do is just drop it off the needle. So at first it's going to look a little bit messy, but once you block it, it will disappear back into the fabric. One yarn over added or subtracted like that is really not going to be obvious at all. So easy to do. Okay, so does anybody have any other questions? Gather your questions, ask me, and I'll blather a little bit about the rest of it. So you're going to do chart B. I should have said this at the beginning, but this entire clue is in color 1. So it's in the fingering weight yarn, not the mohair. So B here. Oh, and the other thing is these little stripes here, those are just a counting aid. So that's all it is, just 5. They're in 5s, and they're numbered from right to left. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 32 stitches. It's just in these large stretches of stockinette stitch. It's easy to get lost in the middle. So that's just to help you kind of figure out where you are. All right, so chart B comes after chart A. So when you're doing a repeat like this, you're going to still be starting on the right side, and you're going to go all the way over to the left side. So when you get to this area right here where it says work 3, 5, 7, 9, so where it says work 3, that's the first time through the chart. So the first repeat of the entire chart, you're going to work this little area in the center here 3 times. So you're going to start over on this side, and these are just no stitch. They literally don't exist, and they're just there as a placeholder. So you're going to work across to the far side of this repeat, bounce back here to this the near side of the repeat. So that's 1, and then you're going to work it again. That's 2, bounce back. And then you're going to work it a 3rd time. And now you're going to keep going to the end. So that is you're going to do that on every single row of this chart. And that is the first time that you're working that chart. That's what you're going to do. The second time, you're going to go over here to the second number, the 5. And you will have added enough stitches so that this repeat in the middle here is going to take 5. So if you're adding stitch markers every time, the first time through the chart when you're doing 3, you're going to have those 3 repeats in the middle, and they're going to be marked off. For the second time through, you're going to add another repeat on either side. So then you're going to have 5 in the middle, and so on. So this chart is, you could repeat it into infinity, and it would work out. But we're only going to do it 7 times this time. So at the end, you're going to end up with 15 repeats in this middle section here. So once you're finished with that, you're going to come over here to this last, this is the last chart. And this top part here is in garter stitch. So that is why I made this into a chart that has both the right and the wrong side on it. So you can either use this format here where you don't have to reverse any of the symbols when you're on the wrong side. So this pearl is a pearl always. The knit is always a knit. Or you can use this, and this is what you see is what you get. And this shows you the texture of the front side. So when you're looking at your knitting, you'll see the ridges across the top here where there's garter stitch. And the repeat in the middle is 17 times. And there's a whole other key for this chart here. So let me see. Oh, that is so cool. So Catherine says, I now know that I'm a combination knitter. Yay! So if you're a combination knitter, I want to go over that. Just one little thing, since I know that there is a combination knitter out there. So if you're a combination knitter, this is going to be a little bit different for you, because directional stitches are a little different for combination knitters. So let me get this oriented here properly. Okay. So for a knit two together, so usually if you had a knit two together and you're not a combination knitter and your right leg is in front, you're going to knit two together like this. Okay. And it's going to be a right leaning decrease. Okay. If you are a combination knitter and you do that, you're going to end up twisting the stitch in a weird way. So what you need to do for a knit two together, if you're a combination knitter, you're going to slip 2 stitches purlwise, and then place them back on the left needle. And now the right leg is in front and the left leg is in back. And now you're going to knit them together. Okay, so that's a knit together. Okay, so what about SSK for a knitter who has the right leg in front and the left leg in back? In order to do an SSK and make that a left leaning decrease, you have to slip knitwise. And by slipping knitwise, you are repositioning the right leg in the back. And then you can knit those two together through the back loop, and you get your left leaning decrease. But if you're a combination knitter, your stitches are already like that. So you already have your right leg in back and your left leg in front. So all you have to do is knit two together through the back loop and you have your SSK. So you just have to make sure that you pay attention to how the stitches are shown in the abbreviations and the techniques, and that will help you if you see slipped stitches and directional stitches. Kind of just put a little extra attention on it and make sure that you get the same result. So let's see. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so I'm so glad, Christina and Monique, I'm so glad that this has helped. I know it can be kind of daunting, like when you're looking at it and it's just like there's all this chart and all this stuff. But if you take it like a little piece at a time, it's often just, it's like, oh, okay, just like a piece at a time. And it works out really well. And also make sure that you guys join us on Ravelry, or I also have a Facebook group, and there are people there all the time who are knitting it as well. And we always try to keep an eye out and like make sure that everybody has their questions answered, and no one is trying to figure out what to do. So definitely definitely make sure that you join us there, and like we'll get you fixed up if anybody's feeling weird about it. And also you can write to me as well. And there's I forgot to mention this. There's also a coupon in the notes for 20% off of all of my previous mysteries, if you want to take a look at that. And those have both all the clues and the final compiled pattern, so you can kind of get the experience as well if you want to do that, or you can just work from the final compiled pattern. So let's see. Yay. So I'm glad everybody is doing well so far. I'm so excited that a bunch of you were able to start already. That's fantastic. Okay, so I think I got everything. Let's see. I think I got everybody's questions. If I missed anybody, feel free to write or like post your questions in the forum on Ravelry or Facebook, and so one of us will like make sure everything's fine. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will be back next week as well. And so please don't forget to like and subscribe, and tell everybody about the mystery and how much fun you're having. So thank you, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Be well.